Welcome back, everybody, to the Be the Frequency podcast, or maybe you're watching it on YouTube. And this episode is going to hit so many of my listeners because most of my listeners are women and a lot of them are moms. And so I'm sitting here with Dr. Kelsey Daniels, and she is a physical therapist. But part of the reason I wanted to have her on this show is that she specifically she's a pelvic floor specialist. So she kind of has this little sweet spot of like, after birth and also babies, and they don't find many people that do these things, and she is really helping the Las Vegas community. So we live in the same city, and I was telling her before we hit record, I was like, I don't know if you knew this because we've never met in person. We've kind of been in each other's like circles. We know some of the same people, and I was like, you're my person that I send when people are just having a baby or right afterwards. I was like, you're my person. So I really wanted her to come on here and just kind of give some wisdom and insight to you. So thank you so much, Dr. Kelsey, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So like you were talking about, I go to moms' homes and work with them prenatal and then postpartum and their babies if needed, which usually like you have kids that are, I think, a little bit older, right?
I do. They're in high school now.
Yeah, it's like a whole other host of challenges and things that like on your first kid, you're like, oh, I don't think I need that. And then the second time, usually there's like, oh yeah, that would have been really helpful.
Yes.
To be a lot of that kind of rebound effect.
Yeah, that's literally before we hit record. I was like, I don't want to say too much because I wish Dr. Kelsey would have been around in the world when I was having my babies, because I've always kind of grown up personally going to a chiropractor. And so like, I've gone to a chiropractor since I was like a year and a half. And so afterwards, after my first one, I took her to the chiropractor to help her skull and things like that after coming through the birth canal. Yes. And then he was not available for my son, and I was very irritated about that. But like something like that, like there are certain things that I look back that I'm like, oh, I wish there was nobody that was working with like small infants.
Yeah, a lot of people are scared. I mean, I get that as far as like a lot of clinicians are nervous, or they feel like, oh, they don't necessarily need anything because they're so little. A lot of people in the community are like, what would you do with an infant? Like they're fine. They're just so, it's a combination of those two things together. And then even like I love working with the chiropractic community. They are great at what they do, and they support what I'm doing with the parents and the baby too. So it's always being able to meld those things together. I will say it takes a lot as the person experiencing the treatment to manage all the things.
Yeah.
But if you can like isolate that or find a really good rhythm or a person that you click with, then it does get easier.
Yeah.
Do multiple providers.
Well, and that's the thing is, I think part of the reason people don't think, again, women, we were talking about this prior, and I was like, wait, this is so good. But like, I was like, I feel like you serve a very underserved like pocket of the community. And I was like, I guess underserved is not really the word, but it's that a lot of times I think in the past, it's been like your body, here, go ahead, your body heals itself. And you just have to deal with, separation of the muscles. You just have to deal with this, leakage and stuff like that because of your pelvic floor. Like it just became so normalized. And now we understand that that's not actually true. And there are things that you can do for it. So how did you specifically kind of get into pelvic floor work and working with children?
So, and to your point, I feel like the prenatal and postpartum population, or just realistically, just be honest, the women's health in general is misserved. I think a lot of people feel like there's specialists for that. You would see your GP, your physician, you would see even on the holistic side, you'd see your naturopath, you would see XYZ. So there are a lot of access points per se, but I think the reality of what that person is going through, we're not really available across those points. And so it's like, this is your one chance. And that's where it's this misalignment of, this is your one chance to get this help. And if that doesn't happen, it's kind of like you're off.
Yeah. You're like, okay, best of luck.
Yeah. And so I think that's where that's what I feel like is people think, oh, women are underserved, da, 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 da. It's like, oh, there's all these things. I'm like, yeah, but they're obviously not, we're not accessing them. So there's obviously something that's not happening. Even if they exist, there's something happening. And then the reason that I got into pelvic health and babies and why I kind of integrated those things, smushed those things together, was because I actually started out in pediatrics. I was in PT school and grad school. I really wanted to work with kids, and I love working with kids, and it's always been just an easier, I think, because I don't like to play by the rules a lot. So I think it's just easier for me to be in that space because kids force you to be like, have a plan A through Z, and you may go
Oh, yeah.
close in one session. And that's okay. No one cares.
Well, and you're like, we're going to try all these things. And they're like, try whatever. Like adults are like analyzing everything.
Yes, it's like very like, you have to do it this way,
Yeah.
you have to do it that way. So I think my brain works in that way. And then when I was working at a hospital system when I had my first son in Seattle, Washington area. So that's where we're originally like born and raised there. And I had a OB who was also a family practice physician. So she saw me prenatally, and then she was actually there for my birth. I was very lucky. Now I think that like that never happened.
No, I was like, wow, what's that like?
After my distance, she's an angel woman. So she saw both of us, and then postpartum, she was seeing me and my baby. So she was talking to me about my pelvic health. We're making the referrals, and she was also right in that same visit talking to me about my son's head shape and supporting me as a pediatric PT and like knowing, okay, this is a person that I would talk to for both of us. And I was, again, I got very almost lucky and spoiled that was my first experience with birth, childbirth, postpartum in the early phases of being like, wow, one person can have this impact on me and make at least those stumbling blocks of the early time easier.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was inspired to be like, if she can do that within her board certification, why can't I do that? Like, why can't I, as a physical therapist, see someone prenatally for their pelvic health, for birth prep, blah, 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 their doula, supporting their midwife and their OB, and then also see the baby and the mom in their home.
Wow.
Seeing the mom for pelvic health and the baby for infant milestones, torticollis, oral ties, all that stuff. I'm like, why not? And again, the rule thing, I was like, no one's telling me.
Listen, I'm not going to ask for permission. I'm going to ask for forgiveness.
I'm very much, it's our problem sometimes, but
Same.
very much
Not that we like each other.
I don't know, maybe this would work. So that's how I got into it. And that's how I was like, maybe I should try this. I was still working for a hospital in a third-party payer system. I was doing early intervention, and they actually had a maternity ward on the like second and third floor. And there was a physical therapist who I love her to death. Her name's Lori. She has been a physical therapist for, at that time, this was like 10 years ago. So she's, like 25 years or something crazy like that. And she had actually been at this hospital for that long. Also, she's amazing. I don't want to like create this like grandma version of her. She looks great, but
don't send her this podcast.
Just I was saying she was there for like 20 years and she's had all this experience. And I said, why can't we just start this here?
Yeah.
This is called the Women and Children's Pavilion, literally on the freaking side of the building. Like, why can't we just start this? Just start with a small caseload, see how it goes, have data, give it to the people in the offices, whatever they need. And she was like, you're exactly right. I've been trying that for 15 years. And she had just gotten into the NICU as a physical therapist, not even touching women's health, prenatal, any of that. So I was like, wow, damn, okay.
Well, and it also, I mean, even when you just talk about like timeline and stuff like that of like, I was listening to something the other day and they're like, if a man has a problem with something, it's like, let's get the science, let's get them something, stuff like that. If women, they're like, well, we need to really make sure and do like 19 studies and get more data and all these things. There's like always so much pushback on women's studies. And I was like, I get it. Our hormones are a little more, complex,
right,
so to speak, than yours are. But like we are populating the earth. So I feel like there should be a little bit more of a priority.
Yeah. So does that mean just because it's more complex or just because you haven't seen it before, does not mean you can't do it? Which is
Yeah.
one of the things I just in my particle cells of my body I hate to hear.
Yeah.
Again, also kind of creates a problem for me sometimes because I'm like, why can't you just? And I'm like,
I'm a squeaky wheel. I'm sorry.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna give me the free reign to try it, oh, I let me open the door here and just try it because I love
Yeah.
nothing better than to be like, well, this is possible. Also, this is how you could start to do it. Sure, it could look different, but this is how we could try.
Yes. Well, and I feel like that's the whole point of science. I think people's idea of science is that these are the hard facts. I'm like, no, science actually means I'm curious about what I'm seeing. Is there another option? Can I try something else? It's actually way more rooted in curiosity and possibility, not facts and rigidity. And people get that very confused when they're like trying to be like, well, that's not scientific. I'm like, just because it doesn't happen now doesn't mean it can't happen in the future because we didn't think cloning was possible. Look at what's going on now. We didn't think, all of these things were possible for us. And until you try it, you don't know.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's where I just felt like there are these opportunities that I'm seeing in other not even industries, healthcare, in other professions within the same industry. If we're thinking OB in healthcare, what's the worst that could happen? So I was still, it was actually funny. I was coming back from maternity leave with my first son, my firstborn, and there was, I think, 4 or 5 of us. There was at least 4 of us that were pregnant at the same time, like within 3 months of each other. And I was the only one that came back full time. And everybody else said they were going to come back and plans change. I get that plans change. And they didn't. And so I was like, okay, well, I have to. This is just the way that our family system works right now. Is like, I have to go back full time. But how can I make this more realistic for me? And also, how can I just start doing this on the side? And how can I just build my own little Google Drive library to eventually change this in the future?
Yeah.
And so I did that at like a year. He was
And that's the thing is, I think too, it's like you saw people who were not necessarily, again, underserved, but missing the mark.
Yeah.
Even when you talked about, one of my clients said this to me one time, and I was like, I want to use this all the time. She's like, you're part of my healing team. I see this person for this. I see this person for this. And sometimes some of us as practitioners will be like, hey, this came up in this session. This might be something she might be working through. And that's exactly what you're like, hey, I need, I went to this doctor and she was seeing me and my son and then referring me out to these different things. But there was community around me and I felt supported in a very, I don't know, everybody says like, it's hard to tell you what motherhood's going to be like. You just have to like experience it. And it's like anything else. If you've never done something, like if you've never driven a motorcycle, it's hard to describe somebody. It's kind of like riding a bike, but not.
Yeah.
Kind of like having a dog, but not.
No.
And to have somebody that's like, hey, I can help you transition through some of these different periods of, again, being pregnant, your body growing. I mean, friends that have like round ligament pain and all of these different things from their body changing. And instead of being like, well, I just have to deal with the pain, being able to find somebody who's like, let's help mitigate that now. And also that we don't want that to be a problem later. So what can we do? And when the baby comes, like there's so many different avenues. Again, like little pieces that are just kind of like holes in the system, I guess is a better.
Yeah. And
you're feeling.
Yes. My 5th year in business in March this year. And so I feel like you have to use so much repetition and small digestible in different areas from different people for the same lesson or the same information. And I don't think that that's just humans, right? I mean, that's the same thing with like if we think on the business side marketing where it's like you have to hear it 40 times for someone to take action. So I think, like you said, that we're thinking that, oh my gosh, we're just going to say it once in pregnancy and then they're going to remember it 3 months postpartum.
I'm like, I don't remember shit.
So, yeah. I'm like, you're, especially if it's your first, you're like, what? There's gonna be a 1-year-old? Like, that child that's 1 over there is potentially, like, that's what I'm gonna be working with,
Yeah.
supporting as a human in a year from now? Like, it is so it's just not it's very hard for your brain to really understand that, and that's just typical.
Yeah.
But someone has to be available, be in that window for you.
Yeah. And it's a hard window too. Cause when you're like, when people are trying to tell you what their experience is like,
You know?
but no two experiences are ever the same, even your own. You
Yeah.
know, sometimes postpartum is really easy for some people. Pregnancy is really easy, or one child pregnancy is really easy and the next one's really hard. And so I think that there's so much that I see a lot of, not, I didn't kind of seek this out, but a lot of women and mothers, and sometimes even people will have experiences that they hold as adults from birth that I think, again, like things like shape of their head, a very traumatic birth experience. There's a woman, I don't know if you've ever looked into this, but there's a woman who does, I wish I could remember the name of the book, but she does like rebirthing experiences.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about this.
So like she simulates a kind of birth experience, not necessarily always like dunking you underneath the water or anything like that, not like a baptism,
I would say like a baptism.
but like it's like a hypnotherapy experience, because sometimes for babies that are stuck in the birth canal, for babies that have cords wrapped around their neck, for babies who are breech, who have, again, most birth is not just like, okay, free and easy every single time.
Yeah.
And so she goes through, because the baby, I think because part of the reason that there's all these little holes in this section of women that you're serving is that babies can't speak. And so we think they don't remember, but their nervous system remembers and their body remembers. And so like a lot of times they're holding things, and to your point where you said earlier of like people being scared to kind of work with infants, is like you just need to be more gentle. They're very, very responsive, and they're co-regulating to the parent. So working with the mom,
Yes.
you're also working with the baby.
Yes, which most people feel like, I think the way that like you were saying with co-regulation, for the average person who maybe is not in the holistic space, or maybe doesn't necessarily have mental or emotional space to open that part of their healing, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's different, but I usually explain it as like, think about the fact that they can't do anything for themselves.
Yes.
Literally an infant. So when we're thinking, if I'm going to support this baby, if I'm going to help this baby because they need something, I have to. I'm basically treating 2 people. So why not, instead of saying, okay, I'm only going to work with the baby and I'm like doing things to the baby and helping them, and I'm kind of instructing the parents, but I'm not really making it like a true partnership or triumphant. It's going to drop off. And I think that's most of what they teach you in pediatric classes, to be honest, like in PT physical therapy school, or in like medical school, if you're going to go into peds or anything like occupational therapy, speech therapy. A lot of it is like you kind of acknowledge the parent, but it never, ever, ever sat right with me to have a parent be out in the waiting room and me working with, even if it's a toddler. There gets to be a point where they're like preteens, or we're trying to build an independence and da-da-da. And maybe we do like a split session where we're like, okay, this is what we learned. I'm going to have you explain that to your parent.
Yeah. It's like an appropriate age for like, they want to feel independent.
Yes.
But we still need to make sure that, again, it's like sometimes at 12 years old, you're still having to be as the parent, like, did you brush your teeth?
Yeah. So like cognitively, right? Are they ready for those executive function? Are they ready for those things? And that's okay at that point. But it was always so weird to me of like, oh, a toddler is going to be in here, or an infant and a infant baby, crawling baby or whatever, is like, we're trying to separate them. And I'm like, what? I mean, my kids are daycare kids, so I'm not saying that that's not necessary, but I'm saying if we're working on a problem, we need to have all of the players in the room that are appropriate.
Yeah.
It is
Well, who do you think's going to go home and watch all these things and do all of these activities with them?
Yes.
If they're not sitting there and going through, and you can't just show somebody, again, one time.
Yes.
And I think that's a huge part. Again, it's kind of like that hole in the medical system a little bit of like, you only have 7 minutes. You only, like, everything is so quick that it's like, the person doesn't feel cared for. Again, they're like, let me show you this one time. You got it? Cool. Send you home.
And they don't want to say no. I don't want to say no and look like an idiot.
No,
Person that I
no.
respect.
Yes. You're like,
I'm like,
yes.
and I'm walking out like, oh God, okay.
I'm like, in my notes, okay, put the
I'm hoping I do it right.
I've learned I voice memo everything. I'm like, I don't remember.
Yes.
I cannot be held liable. My brain has got too many things going on. There's literally been several times my kids are like, I already told you that, Mom. The other day I hugged my son, but I was in the middle of like making a lunch and doing something else. They went to leave. And I was like, oh, you're not going to give me a hug? He's like, I just hugged you.
So you're like, yeah, you did.
I could use another. My body doesn't remember. Come back.
That's cute. Aw. Yeah. So I think that's something that is really as realistic, and that's part of the misalignment, right? There's freaking therapists everywhere. But like, what are we doing?
Yes.
Like, what are we really doing?
And again, to your point of like, are you just kind of, and I think this is the difference when somebody finds some type of clinician where they're like, this person, like you were kind of talking about your doctor from, your first son, of like, this person didn't necessarily go above and beyond for everything, but they did enough to where I felt very taken care of. And I think that's when it becomes more of like the health and the help care and helping you find more health rather than I'm trying to get rid of your symptoms so that we can get you back out the door. And like that difference of like just collecting insurance or collecting a payment versus somebody that actually feels like a doctor to them, feels like something they can go to for health, for healing, for their whatever symptoms they're experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really, like you said, she was great at her job. She was great at her craft as an OB, but it was really just a tweak of saying, okay, I'm going to eliminate a visit for you. I'm going to eliminate an extra visit, which for a first time parent, I'm like,
Stressful.
I'm working and I'm trying to get the child from daycare and I'm trying to not take PTO, but I might have to take PTO for like 4 hours. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
All of that was happening. And so it was like, if this person can make that tweak, I'm like, wow, that's really different. And she did, like we were saying, she did stay. She had started on shift when we went in to get checked. And then she stayed after.
Yeah.
Which also, like, of course, that
Makes you feel, yeah, same. I had a nurse. My pregnancy with my son was a little traumatic. Great pregnancy, but other things going on.
Yeah.
And I remember I went in I got induced because he was breech and they're like, we're going to try and turn him. If we flip him, it's go time. And I was like, okay, because he was already huge. He was 7 pounds, 8 ounces at like 30, just hit 37 weights. He was a big boy. So to this day, he's like 6 foot now. He's going up. Yeah, he's still young. So I'm like, I just make giant children. But she started the shift at 7 a.m. and like she was like, tell me about your history. And I told her, and of course started crying because it's emotional and I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And her shift ended at 7 and she went to do all of her closing paperwork. All of a sudden, like 3 pushes and he was out, which was great. But she came back at 7:30. She's like, I missed the birth. Like she had stayed. Yeah. She made sure she's like, I'm going to go do some stuff. Like I'm going to be back. And I was like, that to me, like, I'm going to make myself cry now. It makes people feel different.
Right.
Like even that you go to their homes, which is a large part of your business.
That is, yeah, I don't have an office. I only do home visits. And people keep asking me, when are you going to get an office? And
why? What? Pay for an office.
Yeah, there was another business lesson or conversation when I had an office for like 9 months. And I learned a lot in that time frame. But clinically, I never saw anyone in that office for visits. I just went it as administrative, sharing it with other women in business. Anyways, that's a story for another podcast. But yeah, I go to homes, I go to daycares, I go to offices before, as far as because it's just that convenience factor that I know people feel like it's not that big of a deal for me to come to XYZ, and maybe it's not, but there is a strong percentage of people, depending on the time of their season of their life, or just who they are and how their lifestyle is, that coming to them is very, very valuable. And especially in the daycare situation or like a daycare situation, childcare situation, if you notice something and you know that your job is requiring you to be separate from your kids, but you don't want them to miss out on the therapy, bringing a child to therapy at the end of your workday is torture. Sorry, I'm gonna say it. It's torture for everyone.
Yeah. The child, you, the office staff.
The staff, they're burnout and exhausted. Again, we're not really remembering anything.
Yeah.
And so to me, if I can work with the teachers that are seeing your child, that are working with your child, and then reiterate what you're doing at home via, because now there's so many other technologies.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I can send you a video. I
yeah,
can yes.
follow up on some of the other things like what's happening on the weekend, how the nutrition part is going, if you're working with someone for that, those kinds of things that we're seeing at daycare that maybe you're not seeing because it's a different environment.
Yeah.
And that's valuable to me. So I like to be mobile. I also like to be out in the world. I think if I
Yeah.
was under fluorescent lighting for 8 hours,
I'm actually reading a book right now. It's called Light, the Future of Medicine. It's an older book, but he actually talks about, he's an ophthalmologist that started studying light for healing properties.
yeah, like red light.
Yes. And well, not just red light, but actually full spectrum, like sunlight. And so he would actually play with different spectrums of light for different ailments and stuff. And he was treating some eye issues with full spectrum light or some different things like that. And he noticed that the women who were experiencing painful periods, irregular periods, a lot of like menstrual issues, it corrected itself with full spectrum light. And I was like, yes. And so I was like, how much of our, PMDD, like all of those symptoms are that you're in fluorescent lighting for long periods of time. And he also proposed, he was kind of saying, well, how much then of Western society had their age that they've started menstruation has gotten younger and younger and younger to the point where it's at 8-ish, 7, 8 at this point in the Western world. Yes. It's like between 7 and 9, I think, in the Western world.
Which is like first and second grade.
Yes. And he's like, how much of that is that the child has lack of sun exposure? And so their hormones are dysregulated, so they start to menstruate earlier than they should.
Wow.
I was like,
thinking to because I have boys, so that direct, like in our household, we're experiencing different things.
yes.
But when I think back to like when I started my cycle, yeah, it was not first or second grade. I feel like you're
No. I was 13.
I think I was in 5th or 6th grade.
Yeah.
I remember it was like almost middle school. So
Yeah.
I don't remember what age that was. But yeah, that's so interesting. So even just as a provider, I try to, like with mobile, it works for the clients, it works for me. It's different from a business perspective. I do know that I eliminate some of that opportunity to see back-to-back clients, but
honestly, I think it depends on where your values are. And so like a lot of people that listen to this are entrepreneurs or, have a side hustle or something like that. But I personally, it sounds like you and I have a very similar value. Mine is time freedom. I want the freedom to be able to go travel, to be able to adjust my clients. If I'm like, hey, this came up for my child, I want to be there for that I can move 1 or 2 clients. I don't like, to me, having that flexibility in my time is valuable, and having something. And that's where I'm like, again, it's kind of like reiterating over and over what you're saying of like, think outside the box.
Oh, 100%.
Whether it be your business, whether it be your health, even stuff like this, like, hey, if you're, afterwards experiencing, after you have a baby, like a lot of, baby blues type things, maybe you need to get outside. Yeah. Maybe some full spectrum sunlight might help you, stuff like that.
Yeah. So I think what I hope for the business to grow and like to share, what I'm hoping to share with people is that there is an alternative. I'm not for everybody. I'm not like, I don't always connect with everyone, but I think that even being able to say, like you said, oh, there's a community option. I bet you'll like this community over this community. I think it's really valuable. And I don't think that is like something that has to be avoided. Like you said, with competition and women in business and just throwing a rock and there's like 20 pelvic health therapists out there. We do different things. Like I'm, to my knowledge, which I pretty consistently reiterate, I'm the only pelvic floor therapist that sees women and children from birth. A lot of times they'll see women and maybe kids once they're like potty trained or a little bit older. And I really strongly believe that all of those toileting factors, how we're eliminating, what that even means, is developed in infancy.
Mhm.
It's your airway to anus. I think that is where it happens, that where it starts. And so I don't really feel the need to stop at that point. Kids, as we get older, it is a different, I usually will kind of like turn them over, refer them to someone who maybe is more fun than me. Because once they get to a certain age, like elementary kids are, you need to be cool.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Then you don't want to see high school kids. You got to be really cool.
So, yeah, I will be like, oh, there's a great sport therapist. See them. This is awesome. They have the equipment. They have all the
Oh, yeah. And then it's like cool and fun. Oh,
very cool. I'm like, this is where you need to go. But if, it's someone before that and that community that we've created in Vegas,
yeah.
pelvic health PTs, I think we all understand where our strengths are.
Yes.
You.
And I think that also makes you probably one of the better practitioners to realize I'm not for everybody, one. And not only am I not for everybody, like I don't want to help everybody.
Right.
That's not my role. My role is not to be everything to everybody. And I think that's kind of one of the key takeaways is like, hey, if something doesn't work for you, there's always another way.
Yeah.
And go where you feel like you're thriving. Go where you feel seen. Go, there's no reason to stay in, seeing up to 17 just because you say you see kids.
Right. And it's funny. It's since my kids are getting older and they're in early preschool and early elementary school, there is an evolution of like what I'm consuming as far as like youth sports, injuries associated with that, growth and development and youth sports and all that. And so I am passionate about that, but I very much am the person who's like, I want to know what's really happening here in this community. And I will always defer once it becomes out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
I may like manage some of the health things because I'm having these conversations with like my kids and my husband about how we're approaching youth sports and like what does that mean developmentally and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not necessarily going to be like, okay, well now this is my new niche.
Yeah.
My new niche. I'm like, this is, I think, a good connection for us. And I really want to understand so I can better serve my own children and better serve like this little segment. But I'm not taking over. I just really want to know the details of things.
Well, I think too, this is where a lot of people think everything that like they have an interest in needs to turn into like part of their business.
Yeah.
And it's like I recently, earlier this year, took up ceramics and I was like, I just need something that is not, my brain is not the tool.
Yeah.
I need something where like, kind of like when you do yoga or you work out where your brain kind of turns off. I was like, I need something like that. I want like a creative outlet that's just fun. So started doing ceramics and I was like, oh, I could make these cool cups and they would kind of be themed to this and then I could sell them. And I was like, no, stop it.
Farmers market.
Stop it.
Here I come.
Yes. I'm like, you'd be so cute. Literally, I was like, oh, so-and-so sells at the farmer's market. We could do a table next to each other. That would be great. And I could put her bread on my plates. And I was like, no, stop. Yes. Like,
let me put that into Claude and go through the full cycle. Let Claude do it and then delete it. It's like when we used to like write a mean, angry letter and then burn it. Or so that it's like,
you're like,
okay, into AI and then
that. I told everybody, I was like, listen, I don't have anywhere to sell all these little cup things that I'm making. So every birthday, every anniversary,
what you're getting, okay.
All the moms, like my mom, it's coming. It'll come up. Mother's Day, yes. My mom, my mother-in-law, my sister who has 2 kids, they all got one of my first mugs with a handle. It is not good, but it is made with love.
Oh, so to your house with the potential to sell. So that's
smart.
It's not staring at you, being like.
Yeah, no, I do. I have actually 7 I can see out of the corner of my eye in my office right now that are like, hey. And I was like, you're just too small. It's like an espresso shot. I don't know if you guys know this about ceramics, but there's a lot of shrinkage. It wasn't big enough. Oh, I mean, all the ladies say that. It's not big enough. And that's shrinkage. Yeah, a lot of shrinkage in ceramics. I'm like, oh, shoot. Didn't really account for that. But something that I love, you've actually brought up several times, which is, I think, very unique, is that you have done a great job of building community around this pocket of time for people where they feel the loneliest, where that is probably the number one complaint of moms is honestly, they're like, my friends who used to call me don't call me anymore because they only want to go out. Or and the part of the problem is like, you don't want to go out as the mom because you're like, it's so much work with the baby. So you want people to come over to your house, but not everybody wants to come over to your house every time and like sit with the baby. So it's like this catch-22 of like coming from both sides. And so all of my friends I had babies very early and a lot of my friends waited, having babies now. And I'm like, you need to find a community of people that are also having babies now. I can't be your person all the time. And so like somebody like you who's like, hey, you're doing all these really great like little seminars or meetups, coffee with, I was going to say carriers, like baby carrier, but that didn't really track. Is that was it called that?
That was the algorithm working to my advantage. Cookies and carriers was one I've done like recurring. Coffee would work too. Any C word would work.
You've used that.
Universal. Because I was like, what if you don't have caffeine? And at least.
Oh, yeah. What if you're a matcha girl? Matcha's having a moment right now.
So, yeah, cookies and carriers. It was like, okay, what's the pace? I think this is the thing that I have realized that I'm adept at, I'm pretty good at, is figuring out the pacing of someone and like what would be, I don't know, this is like the projector human design of it all.
Oh, you're a projector?
That's what I am.
I love that.
But it's like a mom may want to do a workshop with less people if she has more connection, or a mom may want to be in a bigger group because she wants that higher energy vibe. It just depends on the person.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to pay for something, but maybe someone else is willing to pay for a group. So it's almost like you have to figure out, you kind of have to do like speed dating in postpartum.
Yes.
Groups and see what makes sense to you. And so usually a mom, I'll know if I'm like, okay, well, you have more than one kid. So you probably want something like the lowest lift possible. Going to a park meetup that's free is probably great for you.
Yeah.
If you're a mom with one kid and you're like, I, want to get ready and go to this thing that's like indoors with a class, with a Pilates class, with a matcha, and there's a photo option, that is maybe something that's going to be in a different community for you.
Yeah.
Or someone who's a membership person and you're like, I want to know this is going to work for me and I want to exercise. Fit for Mom, because you can go and exercise and it's like very much a structured organization and you can like pay into this and this is, consistently they're hosting events for you. It's not so like free form.
Right.
Those are all different types of moms, and those three moms they may cross paths at some point, but they're probably not going to be all in the same community, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's really okay.
Well, and really how important, I would love to know what you see, because again, you see at different stages, the moms that lean into more of your community stuff, do you see a huge difference in just like mental health?
So I really do see a huge difference in their confidence with who they are. And I think that's the confidence, courage. I was listening to a podcast this morning actually, and it was about business, but the woman had talked about the fact that courage is really the basis of most any decision you make, because regardless of what the subject matter is, you have to have the courage first to try something, or the courage to say no to something, or whatever it may be. And I think most women who attempt to find community, even if it's small or if it's large, and they really learn about themselves, what would serve them the best.
Yeah. Well,
ultimately, what you got to figure out.
Yeah.
In your body. So,
well, and really just how important that is, like that feeling that alone, feeling more confident and more courageous in something that you're already unsure of, I think translates leaps and bounds. As kids get older, you do become the mom that doesn't panic with every single sniffle, every single scrape. You become the person that's like, hey, my child isn't doing well here, or I really think they do better in a different school environment, whether that's, a charter school, or I think that they need tutoring. Like, you're not scared to reach out to people to ask for help. And I think that translates more, I think, broadly into who you become as a mom than just, I need a friend. you know?
Definitely, like, the adaptability of it, and even maybe even just the fact that, like, you can be confident in a room full of people, and you can also feel lonely in a room full of people. And so if you're not in the best fit or closest fit to what will build your confidence, then that's gonna be harder. Because you could go to every giant mommy event that there is, but maybe that's not where you feel the most confident. And so then
Yeah.
you still end up feeling lonely. And then I think that's where the we're missing the mark on those different pieces because, well, people are like, well, there's a mom group for everything. And I'm like, there is, but not every mom wants every group.
That type of group, yeah. It's funny that you say that. I'm like, okay, when my kids were little, there was really only like Gymboree
Okay.
and Facebook, I mean, was around, but we weren't really using it because my kids are older. They're freshmen and, well, I guess they're going to be sophomores and seniors. Um, and so it wasn't really being used like that. And I was also a young mom. So it's like, and working and all those things. And
You really didn't have the time. You
no,
had the time for
no. And I kind of joked with my, I joke a lot. I was like, yeah, I literally had, not to say no friends, but I was like, I have time for one friend pretty much. I'm going out maybe once or twice a month as an adult without children.
sure.
And then work, like, I don't have time to meet up with you after, like, and I recognize even like a park meetup, like, honestly, I would probably sit there, watch my kids. And because I would be so done for the day and it wouldn't force me to socialize, I would probably just sit and talk to nobody. And I'd be like, oh, thank God I can kind of decompress.
Yeah.
Because when you're talking about this, like a larger group that was doing something interactive,
Yeah.
even if I was tired, I would still, because I'd be there and that was the purpose was to interact, like that would have been better for me. And I was like, God,
Hold you up
yes,
out of it versus being able to hide a little bit.
yes,
Thanks.
yeah,
I'm not, like you said, with working, I am like the biggest, what is it, warrior for working moms. I know all moms work. That's part of like one of my things that I do say and share. All moms work, regardless of whether you're in the home, out of the home, or a combination. But I think that the second shift, when you have obligations that are not only your family, when you have obligations outside of that, is a different kind of exhaustion and a different kind it's just different. And I didn't have with my second or with my first, I didn't have an option to do like a group meetup like you were talking
Mhm.
about because I was working. I was just trying to carve out the time with my child, let alone carving out time with someone else's adult
Yeah.
schedule and their child's schedule. When we moved here, I joined Fit for Mom as part of kind of like I knew it was our second and last child, and I was just like, I'm not gonna get another chance to do this. I didn't do this with my first,
Yeah.
and that was something where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this because I need to. It felt so luxurious. It felt selfish. It felt like all of these things. Like, oh, who are you to take off on a Wednesday from 8:30 to 12? Because by the time you drop them off at
Yeah.
yeah, it's 11 again. To where you to take off this time and not be working.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of those things that it takes time to build that up and try.
Yeah. No, and I think that's kind of the misconception I think a lot of first time moms have going into it is that I'll just call them, like, we'll just meet up for lunch. We'll just go. And I was like, yes. And it totally changes the way that even your lunch goes. I like,
Gosh.
I would take when my daughter was little, I worked for MAC Cosmetics. And I remember specifically this one lunch at the Cheesecake Factory. And I was like, sure, it's during her nap time. She'll probably fall asleep in the car. This was so naive of me. And like, brought her in and literally set her down. And she was like, "Boop," eyes open. To this day, this child I always joke she has FOMO. If there is something going on, she wants to be a part of it.
Okay.
It's here for it. She's available.
Yeah.
My son has slept through parades right in front of his face at Disneyland. As a small child and a larger child, like, who would sleep through anything? So, like, my availability to even sit at lunch and, like, have conversations, they're, like, crying, you gotta stand up with them. You're not really there.
No, you're not. You're not. And I mean, even with I think, like you said, this airs after Mother's Day, but even with like Mother's Day coming up on Sunday, it's like what you even want your Mother's Day to be is very different for everyone.
Yes.
Like within the season with everything. Like, of course, my mom and mother-in-law are like at the point where they want to see us all at that time on that day for
Yeah.
12 hours.
And you're like, so
Like-
great, but it is also my Mother's Day.
And I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't want to see anyone.
Yes. You know what I want to
See quiet for 2-3 hours.
Yes.
Oh,
Because yours are still little.
because they're so little. They're so they're
Yeah.
like, and they're boys, so they're just all over it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things being thrown and jumping off
Just
things.
me and
Yes.
wrestling.
Yes.
So, yeah. So it's just even that is like, what do you think Mother's Day should be? What do you think a lunch with your friend that you're just casually meeting up? It's like you're trying to launch a rocket ship in 15 minutes and you've never done it before. It's like,
Yeah.
that's what it feels like.
Yes.
Let's try to figure this out. Good luck.
Hot. Well, and that's where somebody said the other day, like, she's a first-time mom. She's like, what are you all asking for Mother's Day? And I was like, here's what I ask for every year. I want to not be responsible to cater to anybody else for the day. I want to go where I want to go for lunch. I want to buy something if I want to buy something, and I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I just want something where it's not about anybody else but me. Because, like you said, every mom works. Every day is about somebody else for the majority of the day. You're not doing all the laundry because you have so much laundry. You need your sheets done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, live by yourself. I was like, this is cake, you know? And
As
yes.
you're saying, seasonally it'll change when they're older and I don't see them as much. And I'm like, please just give me 2 hours of your time. But
that's where I'm at. I'm like, come
that's-
sit by me.
I know that's coming. I just know it's not now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the reality of just trying to manage those things is just what we're all trying to work on. And that's
Yeah. And man, kind of like you're saying, I feel like there's so many like really great like undercurrents and themes through this entire conversation of like you need to know yourself. Know yourself, pay attention to these cues.
Yeah.
Know what works for you. If you're in business, like it's okay to be doing things differently. The more that you know yourself, the more that you can make these adjustments. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you just because you don't want to go to the park.
right.
It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you just because you don't want to do a mommy group or, you know, that you're having a hard time.
Pace or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And like, again, there are so many people like Dr. Kelsey and so many other people who are seeing where these little holes are and that are there serving that community. And so when you're going through stuff, like just because you get to know someplace or just because they're like, well, this is all I can do for you, like, don't be afraid to like continue to seek help, continue to like ask questions. You know, if you don't understand what you were just shown in that one pass through, ask.
Yeah. Take out your phone and video it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I think, again, like, I think people like you who are willing to do things differently, who are willing to see again, I'm going to use underserved, but misserved, underserved, like, you know, period of time for people and be like, how could I do this better? Like, if we had more people like that, I think there would be a very different landscape for health. I think, you know, even nutrition things, I think movement, like all of this would start to change the way that we live. And so, again, if you're somebody who's a business person and you're like, I don't know, this just seems kind of weird. Nobody else is doing it like this. Like, you don't have to do it like everybody else. You don't have to do motherhood like anybody else. And, you know, Dr. Kelsey is like prime example.
Yeah. You can always DM me if you're like, I don't know if this idea would work. Maybe DM me and your friend who's very highly analytical. Maybe DM us whole. I don't know.
And never like toss around options.
Not. I'll always be your cheerleader for like, have you tried it yet?
Yeah.
You tried it at least once just to see what happened.
Yes. Well, and that's again, approaching whether that be motherhood or trying things with your children of like, I think this is common in just like the early years of like being nervous when they get a fever or being nervous when they're doing these things with their hands. Does that mean something? Like, just not being afraid to try something. And if you go to a doctor and your gut says, hey, that doesn't seem right, or that's not enough for me, like that's not enough of an explanation, like not being afraid to just get curious, ask questions, seek out help. So if you are pregnant or want to become pregnant, are in the Las Vegas area, or maybe you're like, I'm just curious. She puts out so much great stuff. If you're not following her already on Instagram, you do. Like, and that's what this is why I kind of like to open it up that I was like, we don't actually know each other in person, but I am sending you a lot of people. I hope you know. I they go to you, but I'm like, this girl's the shit. If you want to follow her on Instagram, again, even if it's just for you're kind of coming up on that stage and you're like, hey, I need some direction, I need some help or something like that. Her Instagram is the.mobility.project, or you could even visit her website as well, bemobile.live. But this will probably air in June. Will that be after you're doing something really fun? You need some votes. Will it be over by then?
So my will potentially be over by then. Ideally by then I will be the winner of the 25K grant. So maybe we could just put out positive vibes that I'll be celebrating.
Yes.
Because it's been it's like I've had to go through all these rounds for this competition. And so it's been kind of an intense experience, but I'm really excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like you said, I'm pretty active on Instagram, and a lot of times I try to support other events that are happening. And so events will be coming up in July if you're pregnant, and that's usually a really good opportunity to come shop and hang out.
I love it. I love it. So if you're in the Las Vegas area, or maybe you want to travel specifically during July to come to one of these workshops,
We'll be inside. We'll be inside.
inside. Everything in Las Vegas in July is inside. And let's spin a pool.
I don't play. I'm like, why? Why would we do that to her?
Yeah, agreed. So if you haven't already, go find her on Instagram. And I really appreciate you having this kind of candid conversation around, again, like seasons of life and kind of like we said, just being curious enough to like do things differently and how that can really change your life. I have one final question. We'll make it quick. You are riding an elevator and you only have one floor to go, and you have to tell somebody the secret, what you think the secret to having a happy and fulfilled life is. What would you say to them?
I think it would be to figure out what you need first. I really think it would be figure out your best roadmap and how you want to live your life first before you move on to even like your partner or your kids.
I love that, which is very true. It's like you can't pour from an empty cup. Put your air mask on first. Like, you're better because of it. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Kelsey. If you want to find her, all of the stuff will be in the notes below. But until next time, cheers.